That's it. Show that weed who's boss. You know you could just pull it. But it's so much easier to spray it with poison and kill it. But the poison will run into our storm drains, creeks, and ocean. Do you want to swim in that? Swim in that? Swim in that?
Remember, the ocean begins on your street.
I just picked her up. We should be there in 20 minutes.
Who is it? Oh, it's him. Where is he?
I know. Yeah, I know.
I am a black 1998 four-door Corolla.
I'm an 18-wheeler carrying a load of produce down from Salinas twice a week.
I'm a 2001 Silver Jetta.
I'm a big red 85 F-250.
We are an SUV family.
There are over 500,000 car accidents in California every year, and all of them involve people just like you.
Pay attention.
Stay alert.
Eyes on the road.
Hands on the wheel.
Keep it safe.
Cars don't have accidents, people do. Share the road. Keep it safe.
Kirby.
Here.
Burnham. Here. Kaufman Gray. France.
Here.
Horn.
Here.
Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice Chair Bosch.
Here. Okay, are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
There are no changes.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar then, and all we have on that is approval of the minutes from our July 24th meeting. Does anybody have any corrections to the minutes?
I move to approve them.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded that we approve the minutes. Do we need a roll call vote, or do we just? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed?
No,
Oh,
I'm abstaining. I was not at that meeting.
Okay. Okay. So committee member Rodriguez is abstaining and otherwise unanimous. So we'll move on to the Castillo Interchange Deficiency Plan. Rob?
Good evening, Chair and TCC members. Thank you for coming to this special meeting we're having tonight. This item we're trying to get to council, and so I really, really appreciate that. Try to be brief. The congestion management program, some of you may be familiar with it. It's a program that was developed in 1990 through Proposition 111 at the time, and it is used by regional transportation agencies to monitor congestion levels and to tie congestion levels and transportation to what's happening in land development. As land development intensifies and increases, congestion levels are monitored, and the goal is to identify congestion hotspots and then on the regional system, and then to look at those, how they can be mitigated, and then implement improvements to the system. Santa Barbara County Association of Governments, they house the congestion management program. They monitor, and they're the responsible agency for that program. They monitor a number of roadways and intersections in the county, including 101, and then significant roadways, significant volume carrying roadways in the city of Santa Barbara. Mainly those cross 101, so like our interchanges are typically counted and monitored for congestion management program impacts. When the level of service or the grade at which we say an intersection or a roadway is bad is level of service E, which would be one below failure. D is okay in this case. E is bad, so that is the threshold that we're looking for. And in our counts, one of the things that's been kind of interesting, which you probably are aware of, is that during the economic recession, volumes went down. So from 2008, since then, volumes have been down. Volumes have been coming up more recently and are coming back to the 2008 levels, except for some intersections. And the one we're going to talk about tonight is the Castillo interchange, and specifically the Castillo and Haley Street intersection. And that is one of the intersections that's monitored by Santa Barbara County Association of Governments and is now at level of service E. What's interesting about that fact is that it actually exceeds what is projected for the general plan build-out of our city. So not only is it on the radar, but it's on the radar pretty aggressively. Sometimes when we get a level of service E, we'll just count again and see if it goes away. It could be like a one day. We had a situation where there was a lot of traffic that day, but we are pretty familiar with what's going on with the Castillo corridor, mainly because when Caltrans relinquished Route 225, which is Castillo, Montecito, Cliff, Las Positas, we got control of the Montecito-Castillo intersection, and now we are controlling that. So we are very familiar that this is the volumes are oversaturating the interchange, and it is a problem. So what is required for us to do as a city is we have to now develop what is called a deficiency plan. And what the deficiency plan will do, we have a year to do it, the deficiency plan will do is it will look at what are the causes of that deficiency. It'll identify the causes. And in this case, we're just suspecting it's the only real growth we're having in the area is the fluctuation of the college, City College, and its growth. Could be other factors that we're not familiar with, but we at the study would try to find out what are the factors that's influencing the deficiency. Why is it increasing in volumes beyond what we would project for the entire city, while other intersections aren't doing this? And then what it'll do is it'll identify what could solve the problem. What are the traffic solutions that could solve the problem? And then finally, how would you pay for those? The other thing that a deficiency plan can do, similar to what we did at Mission Interchange back in, I think, 98, is that we did a systems approach versus a reconstruction of an interchange. In that case, we found that reconstructing the interchange was extremely expensive, and then also because Mission Street was only 4 lanes into it, going to 6 lanes in the interchange really didn't give us the vehicle benefit that we were looking for. So we did bike lanes and the crosstown shuttle. Not that they're not expensive, because the crosstown shuttle over time, we're spending money on subsidizing transit. And then the bike lanes were installed. So this is I want to just show you what we're talking about. This is Castillo. So I'm going to zoom in on the Castillo interchange. You can kind of see where we are. Here's City College. You can see the harbor, and you can see the freeway snaking through the downtown. So I just want to show you exactly what we're dealing with. This is down here is Montecito Street, where it turns from Castillo and then up the hill to City College. You see the Union Pacific Railroad, and then the interchange itself. Actually, this interchange is kind of interesting in that the off-ramp does not actually reach Castillo. It goes to Bath and then becomes Bath. So if you're actually going to City College, from the south at least, you get off at Bath and then turn left onto Haley and then turn left onto Castillo. Also, some things about this interchange that are interesting is you'll notice that the southbound side is more typical of Caltrans interchanges. It's a diamond interchange shape. In other words, the ramps are right to the side. But on this one, on the northern side at the Castillo-Haley intersection, you have a much shorter ramp. You've got streets coming in at a skew. You have Castillo coming down and then Haley. So you have an intersection and then right there, and then also the Bath Street off-ramp. So there's a lot going on that makes it difficult, and you would expect, actually, when we did the Crosstown Freeway, we expected this interchange to fail right after that, and we had some money set aside and then Measure D to fix it, and that congestion didn't manifest, and we sent that money to La Cumbre interchange, where we have a nice fancy new bridge. So the question will be, what do we do at this intersection? Is it a roundabout? Is it a hook ramp? What are we going to do? So we're bringing this to you so that we can show you the situation and give you a heads up on where we're going with this. We'll go to council next, and we'll have to, this will be an award of a contract at council when we'll get consultant services on board to do the deficiency plan. And then once the deficiency plan is done, then we would take this back to you to show you what the results were before we sent it back to council, probably for some recommendations. It's going to include not only a capital project, but it will also include systems recommendations. Some other things that are going on that are just noteworthy before we get your feedback is that the Castillo interchange actually has been not functioning since the day it opened, appropriately, since the day it opened, and that it's actually a boat section, what we call in engineering a boat section. And what we mean by that is that the entire interchange is under the water table. So it's actually held down by pylons that are driven into the ground, because if the pylons weren't there, it would actually float over time above the water table. But since it is below the water table, this boat was actually it leaked the day it opened. So it's constantly been leaking. So if you're, as you know, or if you're a resident listening to this conversation, as you go into the Castillo interchange for as long as it's been there, it's got usually water, and sometimes Caltrans comes in with a fix, and the fix they haven't been quite able to figure it out, and it just keeps leaking again. So that's just another thing we'll probably be looking at, like how much is that affecting the capacity, right? Because as a cyclist going through there, we don't have a lot of bikes going through there. The City College actually has a much lower percentage of bikes going to the school than you would expect, given the city's high share of bike trips. That's probably adding to congestion because we don't have as many people biking. And then motorists is just kind of slippery, not as sure-footed when you're going through there. Maybe if you're a cautious driver, a lot of people will struggle with that. That affects the capacity as well. So we'll be looking at these issues for the deficiency plan and coming back with a draft for you to evaluate before we go on to council. Right. And at this time, I can answer your questions or take your comments.
My understanding on that, on the condition of that roadway being under the water table, that Caltrans is working on another attempt at a fix, or at least a temporary fix right now. Is that correct?
That's correct.
With interlocking pavers.
Looking
or
at doing
something?
pavers this next time around.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. It's such an important project. I'd also just like to echo some of your comments about the importance for both, I would say actually pedestrians, especially in this area. I mean, the West Beach and access to the harbor is literally just 4 blocks down, Pershing Park, the baseball field, and especially with City College and foreign students, I see more people walking on the sidewalks in this interchange than any other interchange in the city, me personally. It's so important, access between Haley and Bath and Castillo and this whole area. Thank you for taking this project on, and look forward to seeing more.
I have a question just for clarification, although I've driven this in that area many, many times. Rob, can you clarify, is Castillo all one way right there? There's a stop sign and then you can turn right and get on the freeway? I get confused, right? Yeah, where your arrow is. There's the DMV office, correct?
Mm-hmm. Right, coming down from the DMV, this is one way.
Okay.
That's a two-way street right there.
Oh, it's two-way, right? That's right. You can go straight, and then it turns one way right at Coda.
Okay, that I could not remember. So people can go through and then go into the DMV lot, but at the next corner is where it becomes one way. Okay.
Madam Chair.
Bob?
Rob, you said you've got a year to do this, and you expect to come up with a draft by when that you would like us to look over and then give further recommendations. So is there a sort of a stages that you're trying to get a certain amount of it done, or just one draft to us and then bring it before council? And what's sort of the time sequence in this?
We'd like to be back to you at February so we could be at council in March, and back to SBCAG in May.
Okay.
So just to clarify, we had a year from the date that the SBCAG board received the report on the congestion management program, and that was last May, to submit our deficiency plan. So we had a year from that date. So we don't have a year from this point forward. We have a year from last May to complete the work. So that's why we had to call the special meeting, so we could talk to you, let you know what we're planning on doing. We're going to council next month to award a contract.
Thank you. You have any other comments?
Actually, sorry, one last comment. On the other side of where we're seeing on this map, at actually Montecito and Castillo, especially the old gas station space and how it bumps out into the roadway, it really creates a dangerous situation. I mean, this is the most kind of bike, ped, gnarly, dangerous interchange perhaps in the city. And I'm just curious if that lot has a process or if that might be included in this process at all.
That has a land development application for that site, and we are working with traffic operations to make sure that the land use that, when it does go in, does comply and pull back away from the roadway, provide a more generous sidewalk. And also there's a transit stop on the northeast side.
It doesn't front on that property, actually. It's the next property up.
It's right here.
Yeah.
But because of the staging, Derek wants it. Derek Bailey, our traffic engineer, wants a receiving lane actually for the bus so it gets out of traffic as soon as possible. So it's going to be accommodating the transit vehicle, which is very frequent.
I do have a question. You've said this is at level E. I'm just curious, are there a significant number of intersections in the city that are at this crisis level, or is this the clear standout, and that's why it was selected?
This is the clear standout for now. But we can anticipate this kind of a domino effect. We're going to see more and more of this, is particularly when the 101 widening is completed in the northbound direction, as more freeway traffic comes all at once to this intersection gets even more impacted. In fact, we're going to have to count for that in the study, the 101 widening. And then other intersections, Cabrillo, Mission is already at level service F now. But we did the deficiency plan already for that one, as I mentioned in the report in the presentation. But that'll get worse. Las Positas will get worse. You'll probably see Garden go into this type of condition as well. It's just this we have more options. This interchange we have more options because it's not traditional. It doesn't have the highest capacity. As I pointed out about the Bath Street and the short on-ramp, and there's a lot of limitations. Like, for instance, when once the northbound freeway starts backing up past this ramp, then we're not going to be able to flush the traffic onto the freeway anymore. And I don't know if you're familiar with that, but that green left turn arrow onto the freeway is very long, intentionally to try to get as many cars through there and onto the freeway as possible. But when the freeway gets backed up, the ramp is so short that it's just going to be, the queuing is going to be on the road at that point. So there's a lot of challenges, but there are possibly some solutions that we think the consultant will be able to come up with. Then the next question is funding, because as you know, the 101 is taking up, that is not completely funded yet, and that it takes up takes 30 years of our transportation money to do. So even if we identify the money, we may not be doing anything anytime soon. So it's just something to be realistically thinking about.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Rob, you mentioned the options: roundabout, hook ramp. Are those the only two? Are there any others?
There's some other options that are even more expensive. Trying to make the there's some kind of crazy ideas about trying to make the Gutierrez intersection actually come onto the freeway here and meet up with the ramp, which actually saves you a lot of capacity when you put a ramp together, two movements together to ramp. You actually increase in a lot in capacity, so that makes sense, but it's very expensive. I say crazy just affectionately. It would actually work, it'd just be very expensive. And then everything we're talking about, many of the solutions that would widen underneath, of course, those would be very expensive, right? Because you'd be replacing the bridge over Castillo and probably fixing that boat section. So.
Back to Kathleen's question about other intersections. So you've already done the deficiency plan for Mission, but it's still at level of service F. So once you've done a deficiency plan, you don't have to do it again, or is there like a time period that?
That's a great question. I don't know officially the answer to that question, but I do know that Santa Barbara County Association of Government Staff has told us they're not going to bring it up. But of course, congestion is a challenge, right? And in our general plan, congestion is linked to our quality of life, and we don't want to have congestion in the city, right? It's just not good. It's in the 1964 general plan, everyone was talking about L.A. We don't want to be like L.A., right? And a lot of that had to do with congestion. We didn't, so. I think that is our task, right? To try to have a congestion-free town, and that's going to be increasingly harder to do because there's less improvements to actually do. Even if we had the money, what do? You widen the freeway to 8 lanes? Do you put in even bigger interchanges than we have now? Then you begin to compromise kind of what Santa Barbara is. So it'll be a very challenging future to try to weigh and balance what we do with the situation of congestion that it looks like we're going to be in.
Okay. Anybody else have anything? All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So now we move on to announcements, and we have the Active Transportation Program Grant Awards.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Vice Chair. I'm sure some of you have already known, seen some of the press releases, but the City of Santa Barbara, we applied for 5 Active Transportation Program project last spring. And of the 5 applications we submitted, we were successful in receiving 4 of those grants in an amount of $8.66 million. So the projects that were awarded is a sidewalk on Milton Street from the railroad tracks down south to Cabrillo Boulevard on the east side of the street. The other project on the east side is the replacement of the Cacique Street pedestrian bicycle bridge, as well as adding a bridge on Soledad at that same location to improve bicycle and pedestrian access in the neighborhood, especially to Franklin Elementary School. And the third project on the east side is the replacement of the Montecito Street vehicle bridge and adding a sidewalk on it. All 3 of those projects came up as part of the East Side Neighborhood Transportation Management Program that we did last year as being something that the community would like us to address, and we were successful in receiving those 3 projects for funding. So engineering is working on all 3 of those. We have a 2-year deadline to request obligation of funds for construction after they give us the okay to start design. So engineering is in the process of selecting the designers to do the 2 bridge projects, and then they'll be doing the sidewalk design in-house. And the 4th project that we got planning money for, so it's for design and environmental, is for a multi-purpose pathway on Las Positas between Modoc and Cliff Drive, and a portion will be on Modoc as well. It's a difficult area to come up with a good solution for bicycles and pedestrians, primarily because you have the creek there. But we did get the money to, I think that's like $1.5 or $1.6 million to do the design and planning, and that will line us up to apply for a future grant. So it was an extremely competitive process. The one project, I believe it was the Montecito Street Bridge, received the funding in the statewide pot, and the other 3 projects received money in the small urban area pots. So it was a big team effort amongst the public works staff. Jessica Grant on my staff was the primary grant writer, but the folks in engineering, Brian Diamore, and other folks in engineering, Derek Bailey, did all the cost estimating, wrote the exhibits, and everybody proofread each other's work to make sure we had a very competitive process. So I'm really proud of our staff. My career in local government, this is the largest grant application I've ever received, other than large projects like a bridge or something like that. So to be able to get alternate transportation projects like this funded through a grant is amazing. So, and
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congrats.
What did you say the total amount was again?
$8.66 million.
Okay.
Nice.
A question.
Hillary?
The multi-purpose path on Las Positas, the road formerly known as 225. Is there any way to, if this roundabout that's been discussed at that at the intersection with Cliff goes forward, as it seems like the council has asked for it to, is there a way to for some of that money to link up in design with that project?
The initial thought of Mr. Bailey is to have it start at the roundabout and move up towards Ealing's Park entrance.
Mm-hmm.
But there's some environmental issues we have to deal with the creek and all that. So that's our initial thought, and line us up to get either a future active transportation program grant or highway safety improvement program grant. So.
Yeah. Great.
Chair?
Ed first, and then
Mr. Allen, I would just like to personally thank your staff and commend the team, the transportation division, because especially when you look at the east side neighborhood transportation planning effort, the ability of the city to be as responsive as it's been just in this last 2 years to the great input that was received from the east side and has been acted upon in a very quick fashion, both on Milpas and now with these projects like lighting and the bridge, and also the Montecito Street pedestrian sidewalk for that bridge. These are important projects to the east side community, and the community spoke, the city has listened, and the city has done a fabulous job of bringing home the funding and making these projects happen. So thank you.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and I'll definitely let our staff know that.
Susan?
I was just going to say the same, that the groundwork was laid, in the last couple of years with all the work on the east side, and it really turned out to be just what was needed to make those really compelling. So thank you for all that work.
Okay, thank you. And speaking of the east side, the pedestrian refuge islands have gone in, and they're also working on the safe route to school over on Salinas by Cleveland School. So a lot of work's going on the east side right now. The other project I wanted just to alert the committee about at council, I believe it's next week, is the award of contract to put a traffic signal in on Arriaga at De La Vina Street. Derek Bailey got a highway safety improvement program grant for that signal as well, and it does meet warrants. So looking at the crash history and the volumes, it met the warrants to do a traffic signal, so it's a much needed traffic signal. So that will be in before the end of the fiscal year. And
Very
that's
good.
all we have for tonight. And we will have a meeting next month. So I think it's the 23rd of October. And we have quite a few things we want to bring before this committee. So it won't be a short meeting, and it'll probably be a couple-hour meeting at the next meeting. So
Thanks for the warning. Do we have anything else?
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned.
There's nothing that can harm you. With Daddy and Mommy standing by. Summertime, yes the time. I'm talking about summertime. And the living, summer living, and the living is so fine. The fish are jumping. And the
Ride a bike in the street, SB open streets. Go skate in the street, SB open streets. Play a game in the street, SB open streets. Come skip in the street, SB open streets. Do yoga in the street, SB open streets. Move your body in the street, SB open streets. Jump rope in the street, SB open streets. You and me in the street, SB open streets. Ride a bike in the street, SB open streets. Go skate in the street, SB open
So we're here on Cabrillo Boulevard, right at Stearns Wharf. We got all the way down to the bird refuge that is closed and open to people powered.
Car-free streets, woo!
I think my favorite part is just seeing the community come together and really showing that when we've got a plan and we're passionate about something, we can make it happen.
riding and enjoying the streets, seeing all my friends and having a wonderful time.
I love that there's so many people down here and that we have so much room to spread out. And it's just great to see all of the kids. The kids are just adorable and it's very safe.
And in the end, it's only round and round, round and round.
together. Now, people, because together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Well, now together we will stand. Every boy, girl, woman, and a man. Oh, yeah. People try to put us down about my generation. Oh, just because we talking about my generation. They do the awful talking about my generation. I die before I get old. Talking about my generation. It's my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Try to dig what we all say. I'm trying to cause a big sensation. Talking about my generation. My generation is my generation, baby. Why don't you all fade away? Talking about my generation. Something what we all say. I'm trying to cause a bloody big sensation. Talking about my generation. My generation is my generation, baby. See me, feel me, touch me, heal me. Listening to you, I get music beating at you. I get the beat following you. I climb a mountain, I get inside, but at your feet. Right behind you, I see millions on you. I see the glory on you. I get opinions on you. I get the story. cocaine. She don't lie, she don't lie, she don't lie. Cocaine. You mean eat your dinner, eat your pork and beans. I eat more chicken than a man ever seen. Yeah, yeah. I'm a backdoor man. Don't mean don't know, but the little girls understand. Well, I'm a backdoor man. I'm a backdoor man. Whoa, baby. I'm a backdoor man. Don't mean don't know, but the little girls understand. On a long and lonesome highway east of Omaha, you can listen to the engine moaning out his one-note song. You can think about the woman or the girl you knew the night before. But your thoughts will soon be wandering the way they always do when you're riding 16 hours and there's nothing there to do, and you don't feel much like riding. You just wish the trip was through. Here I am on the road again. There I am on the stage. Here I go playing star again. There I go, turn the page.